Hi there, everyone. Happy full moon in Aries. This is my first time going live on YouTube. And so I hope that this is okay. I hope you can hear me clearly. And I also hope that I'm able to leave this for later, that I can post this. Let's see. So I'm going to just kind of start talking about a few things that I wanted to share with you about why this full moon in Aries is so important. Additional things that I didn't mention in the forecast uh, give you kind of a wider picture, a wider perspective. And hopefully that allows you to um, make greater sense of whatever may be coming up for you, right? Let's see. Hello, I'm Talina from Oklahoma. Hi, Talina. Thanks for hopping on. Okay, so here is a full moon in the sign of Aries that, even though it's not technically considered an eclipse, it's still part of this eclipse season, right? For those of you who purchased the eclipse guide, I laid out the entire timeline of this eclipse season, right? Hi, Joanna. Thank you. I laid out the timeline for this eclipse season, which was essentially from September 1st to November 1st, right? From really that new moon in Virgo all the way up to the new moon in Scorpio. And the reason for that being that that is ample time for any of the planetary bodies, any of the points that are meant to be activated during the eclipse season are actually activated. And then beyond that new moon in Scorpio, we're moving into different energy that will focus on then, right? So the fact that this is a full moon in Aries that technically is not an eclipse, but is an eclipse season, and it is a sign in which we have been experiencing eclipses, to me, this full moon has the potency, has the energy, really, really embraces the themes around eclipses. And so those themes around eclipses are great new beginnings, great endings, the understanding that something fundamental and significant is changing in your life, in the Aries part of your chart. And this is what I wanted to talk about in this live. I think that, yes, it is important to look at, hi there, Christy, Holistic Christy from London. Um, it's obviously important to look at the Aries part of your chart. Absolutely. That's where all of this is being activated. And if you think back to October 2023, think about, right, how much has shifted in the Aries Libra axis of your chart since October 2023. But beyond that, there is something about the Aries part of the chart that is being so cleansed, so renewed, so transformed in the way that it is, right? Because we are having a lot of activation between the Pisces Aries signs in 2025. And that's really what matters here. Because in March and April of 2025, we're going to have a Venus retrograde and a Mercury retrograde happening at the same time. And they're going to go into Aries, go back into Pisces, and then go into Aries. We're going to have Saturn enter the sign of Aries, go back to Pisces, and then eventually make its way into Aries. We're going to have Neptune entering Aries, going back to Pisces, and then eventually making its way into Aries, right? So here we have the 29th degree of the zodiac And the 0 degree of the zodiac, the very end of the zodiac and the beginning of the zodiac, being activated multiple times in 2025. This is much bigger than just the Aries part of the chart, because this is the cosmos saying we are entering truly, truly uncharted territory, right? And that's not even, I'm not even going to spend too much time talking about Pluto really moving into Aquarius, Uranus moving into Gemini. What else is there? It's leaving me right now. I'm not even talking about anything else that's happened. I'm not even talking about the eclipses that we're going to experience, right? So it is important for us to understand that the activation of the 29th degree of Pisces and the 0 degree of Aries, because that is a brand new beginning in general. That is a brand new beginning in our life. It just so happens that these eclipses in Aries Libra have been saying there is something really significant about the Aries Libra axis that you need to rebalance in your life and get very honest about, which probably includes some anger, right? A different level of assertion, a different level of individuation, or some individuation to take place in this part of your chart, so that in this overall beginning that 2025 is transitioning us into, because this is more of a new beginning actually happening in 2026, 2027, so that you don't carry the things that you have been carrying for many, many, many years. So when you have that context of the activation of those degrees coming into play in 2025, this gives this particular full moon a different feel, right? I mean, and also in January, well, it depends on what system you use for the nodes, right? But the nodes will switch signs in January. The system that I use, the nodes will switch signs January 11th. That means that the nodes will sit at 0 degrees Aries and 0 degrees Libra. That activation again, and then they will move into 29 degrees Pisces, 29 degrees Virgo. The activation again of those points is so, so significant. This is a redo. This is a reset. This is a second chance at life, right? If we've ever had one, right? Now, I think it's important to understand that as the nodes do move into North Node in Pisces, South Node in Virgo in January, the North Node in Pisces, and again, for those who purchased the Eclipse Guide, I talked about how the North Node in Pisces is going to represent so much having faith in something greater, having a different connection to spirit, having faith in yourself from a different place. This reset that we're going to experience in 2025 is really going to absolutely shift and change the way we do relationships, not just romantic. Please think beyond that. The relationship that we have with ourselves, the relationship between soul and ego, the relationship to our work, the relationship to currency, the relationship to transaction, the relationship to energetic exchange, not just with others, but with everything in our lives. Does this deserve my time, energy, and effort? For those of you who have been following my work before YouTube, I talk about this a lot, and I've been talking about this question: who, what actually deserves my time, energy, and attention? Who and what actually deserves my time, energy, and attention? So much of this has had to do with, I started talking about this when we were having eclipses in Taurus, Scorpio. Uranus and Taurus has really activated that. It has shaken things up so that we understand what we actually value. And so when we think about how these questions, right, around who, what deserves my time, energy, and attention have been going on for a few years, and then we move into these eclipses around relationships in 2023 and 2024, what we are noticing here is, how do the relationships in my life align with what I value? And when they don't, or it feels that they don't, how do I bring a different level of balance in my life? How do I accept that? How do I make a decision that is for my well-being first and foremost? North Node in Aries. A lot of the conversations that I have had this year have been with amazing women, right? Whether it's friendships or clients, have been with amazing women who have reclaimed their power back so much, who are no longer tolerating certain things, who are no longer fulfilling certain roles and certain dynamics. And they have been, air quotes, punished for it, right? They have been told that they are too much, that they are too direct, that they are selfish, that it's almost like trying to get them in line, trying to get them to fit into the role and the mold that they have been playing for a very, very long time. I bring in this example, one, because really I only really I mostly just work with women, right? But I bring this in because that essence, the essence of being so in integrity with yourself, is only going to sharpen, or the point is for it to sharpen, to become clear to you in 2025 before we move on to 2026 and 2027, which really marks it marks that new paradigm. And why? Because there is a calling back to our sense of self. The way that we are being asked to get to know ourselves right now, the way that we are being asked to being very honest about how we envision ourselves as individuals before envisioning ourselves in partnership of some sort, appreciating ourselves as individuals before we collaborate, right? Let's talk about that for a second. Here's a different example. I think that we're coming from a time in which a lot of people have tried, right? Especially if like they're on social media, um, they have attempted to collaborate with someone, right, in order to gain greater notoriety. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that, right? I think collaboration is important. I have been very blessed to have collaborations that have truly helped me throughout my career as an astrologer and life coach. Okay. The difference there is asking yourself, are you having these interactions? Are you having these relationships? Are you seeking out these connections because someone has something to offer you and give you? Or are you doing it from a place where you're genuinely trying to collaborate and connect? And that requires that you as an individual know who you are and know what you bring, and that you own it, not that you see yourself as less than, because this is a collaboration. Do you see what I'm saying? There's a different feel in the self when it comes to Aries. There's a different there's a different way of asserting the self that doesn't have to say, look at me, I have arrived, this is who I am, and this is what I bring to the table. You don't have to do that when you're certain of yourself. You just arrive and do what you do. You don't have to explain what you do. You just do what you do. It's you, it's your aura, it's how you're grounded within yourself in the understanding of, I am me, and that matters. There is something that I bring simply because I am me. And my responsibility becomes knowing that, nurturing it, polishing it, being proud of it, taking care of it. So again, my main goal, if you will, or intention with this live was to bring in this greater context, because it is, I mean, of course, this full moon is pretty volatile. It's pretty volatile. It's pretty powerful. It's pretty potent, right? And so, depending on what you may be experiencing in your life, these are some of the themes that you're going to experience really between now and the end of October. The reason for that being is that planets are still moving. They're still going to activate other points, right? I mean, on the 22nd, on October 22nd, the sun in Libra is going to get to the 29th degree of Libra and create the very last square to Pluto in Capricorn at 29 degrees Capricorn. So what does that tell us? That tells us that the way that we show up in relationship to another and to ourselves and to life, right? The way that we show up, the sun, to relationship, right? Whether it's to another, to ourselves, to our life, to a square, a 90-degree angle to Pluto and Capricorn, tells us that's done. Because remember, squares are catalysts for change. Squares mark that tension between that, in that 90-degree angle, is something needs to change, something needs to click. And the sun represents our identity, our ego. Pluto represents the transformation of that. Something in our ego, in our identity, needs to die, right? Pluto, if we're being very, like, just very Astro 101 here with the interpretations of this, in order for us to experience different relationships and a different relationship to life, a different relationship to ourselves, a different relationship to this understanding. How do I come to a place where I choose myself first and I get very comfortable with that and not continue waiting to be chosen in some way? So that when I'm in this space of groundedness, when I remember who I am, when I remember my connection to spirit and my wholeness in that, how do my relationships then shift and change? And how does that then lead me to just behaving differently in my life, making different decisions in my life? Another important component about this, and I mean, I've talked about this, is Venus at the time of the full moon. And technically right now, is Venus still in Scorpio or not? I don't know if Venus is still at the 29th degree of Scorpio at this time, or if it moved into Sagittarius yet. It still is. Okay. Because the full moon for me was, what, like 5 hours ago, like at 4 a.m. Venus and Scorpio in a higher expression, in an embodied expression, is how to take care of myself, right? What do I need to do to keep myself safe? And not safe from a place of fear, not safe from the world is against me, right? More of like, how do I take care of my emotional well-being? Because it's that deep, because it's that tender. I don't know if you've had Scorpio people in your life. I have had the pleasure of having a lot of Scorpio women, sun or rising, in my life. And those women have supported me so greatly, so greatly. They're freaking badasses, but they're so tender. When you get past that tough exterior, because Scorpio does have that. And I think that the reason that energy expresses itself the way it does is because there's a lot of tenderness there. It's very deep, right? It understands things to a degree that maybe the rest of us don't. And when someone understands something to a degree that a lot of people don't, and that understanding is not reflected back to them, that's not the easiest experience to have, because there are a lot of things that you have to learn to validate for yourself or align with the people who you finally feel like, okay, they see it too. We all need that, right? And by the way, this is also another one of the themes that is meant to unfold with this Aries Libra energy, to find your people. But the way that we do that is to embrace who we are, to embrace our individuality. What does it mean? What are my values? What do I want to say? How do I want to be in the world? How do I want to communicate? So back to Venus and Scorpio. Venus and Scorpio, it's like I take care of myself. I protect myself in a certain way. I uphold certain boundaries because not everybody has the right to that kind of access to me. And that is okay. We're upping the bar. We're raising it for access to us, not because we're coming from a place of self-righteousness, but because there is a different understanding of this is where I feel, this is where I belong, and this is where I don't. But that understanding begins with the self. And we're going to be moving back and forth with that understanding. That understanding still has to land. That's what the planets tell us in 2025 as we move from the 29th degree of Pisces into the 0 degree of Aries. Back and forth, trial and error. Oh, I fell back into that pattern. Oh, okay, I don't like that anymore. That doesn't fit anymore. Let's see. Scorpio rising here. I can very much relate to this, trying to find new ways of connecting recently. Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. I think that has been such a big lesson for so many people in different ways. Absolutely. And if you are someone who is used to, again, playing a certain role in someone's life and in your family's life, and whatever it is, at work, the way that you do your work or the reasons why you do the work that you do, there is an identity shift. There's a bit of an identity crisis, right? Now, all of this, I feel, is only making clearer and clearer who we are. And I think that this full moon brings with it so much clarity because of the tension, right? Think about when two people are in tension with one another, and then things finally come to the surface, right? In that moment, people actually say what they mean. In those moments, people actually express what they have been holding on to. Is it the best way? Probably not. But at the very least, there is a different level of honesty. Things are out in the open. And hopefully, depending on each person's level of consciousness, depending on how they handle conflict and all of the other things, they can move forward differently. I think that beyond relationships, Aries will always be the sign that calls for courage, right? Let's say that this has nothing to do with relationships. Your relationships are great. Everything is good there, okay? What are you wanting to do? What are you wanting to start? What are you wanting to express? What are you wanting to launch? What are you wanting to put out there? 2025 is such a great year to be like your test beta year. Oh my God, such a good year for that. Because for everyone, especially, I was going to say, especially if you're a creative, but everyone's creative. And I think that we're moving into a space where there is such disappointment in, like, just having like the regular job, right? Or being treated a certain way or whatever it is. Not that there's anything wrong with having a regular job if you haven't. I think that actually works really well for a lot of people. What is something that you want to start that is new, that takes courage from you, that puts you out there in a different way that maybe you've never experienced before, right? So the reason that 2025 will be a year where it's a great time to test it out is because of that back and forth. It's because of the retrogrades. Oh, this is what works, this is what doesn't. This is how often I like to do that and not. This is what it feels like, right? Oh, I didn't think it would feel like this. Okay. Or maybe I should get a little bit more educated in that. Maybe I don't want to do this alone. Maybe I want to do it with someone else. And we both bring in like very different components and points of view. And then that'll work differently, right? There is something about doing and trying something new in your own life. And I think that this is where it expands beyond just where Aries falls in your chart, that we're being asked to actually just go slowly towards. That 2025, especially that first half of 2025, is a very slow start. To me, when I look at the 2025 astrology, it feels like it takes 2025 about 6 months, the first 6 months of the year, to really get going. Does that mean that nothing's going to happen? Absolutely not. It's just, you will feel it. We'll feel it. And that's okay. The pace is on purpose. But when we think about it, I get to do it in my own time, in my own way. Just start. Really, that Aries energy is just start. Just start. Just do it. Trust yourself, right? We go back. What is the relationship to myself? What are the relationship to my skills? What is the relationship to my thoughts about myself? What is my relationship to my mindset about myself? Right? Cass, hello, big love from Peru. Hi there. Hi, thank you so much. So, think about this, right? By the way, when we have eclipse season next year and both Mercury and Venus are retrograde, we are also going to be in the middle of eclipse season. To me, all of these things are exciting. And I know, and there will be an eclipse guide for all of that. There will be a Venus retrograde guide for all of that you will have. I promise you that. But this is such a great time to be alive. We get a redo, we get a reset. The difference is that we really have to meet the universe halfway. And the way that we meet the universe halfway with this beautiful invitation for something new, for a reset in this lifetime, is that we have to take responsibility for the decisions that we make. Because if you're studying astrology, chances are that you study other astrologers. Chances are that you study something in wellness, other modalities. Other people on here are so intelligent. It's so amazing and fascinating. I see it in your very thoughtful comments. It's really beautiful. Why have all that knowledge if we're not going to actually walk our talk? This brings in the component of integrity. To be within integrity of ourselves means that we take responsibility for the decisions that we make. So, are we going to continue making the same decisions when it comes to relationships? Are we going to continue making the same decisions when it comes to our work, how we share it, how much we charge for it, right? Who we collaborate with? Is all of those components aligned with who we are? The being willing to say no to things that are not aligned with us, not because one is better than the other, not because someone is good or bad, but because you have to ask yourself, does this align with me? Period. End of story. The willingness to say no without being afraid that you're going to miss out on something. Because what the North Node in Pisces is going to really, really invite us to understand is nothing that's meant for me will miss me. Everything that's meant for me will find me. Everything I want wants me more. And this isn't just regurgitating positive things. This is about the understanding of our power when we harness it, when we stop diluting the energy to things and people that we don't need to be diluting our energy to. Because we are participants of our experience. We decide in some way, shape, or form. Okay. All right. So 30 minutes. I'm going to stop there. I hope that this was helpful. Thank you for those that joined. This is pretty cool. I intend to do more lives. I'm not sure how often, at least once a month. But yeah, may this be of service like everything else. Sending so much full moon love to you. Let this show you what you need to see right now, and embrace it and hold yourself with unconditional love and compassion. I've received several messages where people are having a hard time with this. I get it. And hold yourself with love. Be the safe space within you to be angry, to be sad, to be upset. Or if you're not experiencing that, really celebrate it all, truly, because it all is perfect. We can't get it wrong. We just need to be aware. Okay. Thank you. Actually gave me a boost. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Much love to you all.